You know, before 40 years ago, in fact, we had been in existence as a sovereign nation for 22 years. And for those first 22 years, everyone knows, and history has recorded, that we lived in a political system that was referred to as, or that was known to be closed, that was known to be highly centralized, that was known to be, in many respects or aspects, authoritarian and dictatorial. A lot of people were living in some sort of fear. A lot of people were not sure of anything. They were afraid of everything and anything. And after 22 years of such a close, a dictatorial society, President Biya succeeded President Ijo constitutionally, and when he acceded to the helm of state, he declared voluntarily, solemnly, that he was coming to power with a new vision, or a vision for a new Cameroon. And this vision, he referred to it as the New Deal. And for me, the political scientist that I am, I was a young doctoral student at the University of Denver in the Colorado, in the United States of America, Graduate School of International Studies, which is now called the Cobell Institute. For those of us who were African students at that time, when President Biya acceded to the helm of state and launched this new vision of political, social, and economic governance of the new Cameroon, which he referred to as the New Deal, we were taken aback. We were all excited that this is the kind of leader we want in Africa. This is the kind of leader, or these are the kinds of leaders Africans need. Because what did he say when he said he was coming to power with a vision of a New Deal? He said the New Deal for the new Cameroon was a Cameroon of moralization, a Cameroon of rigor, a Cameroon of liberalization, a Cameroon of democratization,
was it not just
a Cameroon of modernization.
Was it not just a slogan?
No, it was not a slogan, because
can we say it is real?
It is real, because when you say, is he an architect? He is indeed the architect, because when he launched this vision of political, socio-political, and economic governance of Cameroon, and he defined the elements or the pillars of this New Deal, it was so attractive, because, see, who can be against moralization? Who can be against rigor? Who can be against liberalization or democratization or modernization? And see, on each and every one of these pillars of the New Deal, we can talk about each and every one of them. If we talk about moralization, I'll just give you an example. There is a new consciousness now in Cameroon about morality and moralization. We see now that Cameroonians are their eyes are open. They are very alert. They are open to anybody who is misbehaving, anybody who is corrupt, anybody who is not who does not behave with rectitude. It is good, because Cameroonians are too alert to that now. They are conscious. You take rigor. Look at in our services, public services, private services. You see that there are elements of rigor being instituted everywhere. You go to ministries, public services, private services. You have what you call anti-corruption units or services. You have transparency services. Cameroon embraced, as you know, Transparency International. This, in terms of moralization, you do know of any country which has gone after corrupt people as much as Cameroon has gone? I don't know of any. So many officials who have been prosecuted
but
and have been adjudged.
But they are also with the militants, eh?
Well,
majority of them.
No, people say that, but you could also say they are all from a particular religion. You can also say they are all from a particular social class. You can also say they are all from a particular language group. You see, people whatever they did or whatever they were accused of, was not because they were CPDM militants. We are first citizens. And when we operate and function, whether in the private or public sector, we function as citizens. But it does not mean that we function as citizens, it is because you belong to this church or this party or that party. If you take, I mean, I'm not a specialist on prisons, but I'm sure if you look at those who have been prosecuted or who are in the courts, and you try to figure out what party they come from, you come to discover that the majority of those are not CPDM militants necessarily. But they are citizens of Cameroon. So the point I'm trying to say is that even if they were, as you say, CPDM citizens, militants, the mere fact that they have been prosecuted, judged, and sentences passed, it shows that the campaign for moralization and rigor is alive and well, thanks to the New Deal. If you take the case of liberalization, just look at our society. Our society is no more a closed society. It has become an open society. So open that everybody behaves the way they want. Everybody talks the way they want. Everybody thinks they can even go to the moon. Everybody thinks they are capable of doing anything, which is fine. I think it's good when people are open. It gives everybody the sort of self-assurance, self-confidence to be able to be or not to be. That's good that we are now an open society we should celebrate. Take the case of democratization. In the case of democratization, who can doubt that we are now a democracy in Cameroon? So many hundreds, 330 political parties.
Is that a sign of democracy?
Yes, of course.
The number of political parties?
The number of political parties, it is one element of democracy. Democracy is four things. It's good that we know. Democracy is four elements. When you say, is there a democracy, what are you looking for? You're looking for, are there freedoms or is there liberty? Two, you are looking for, are there laws, including a constitution, that are there to manage democracy? Three, are there institutions that are there to be the managers of the process? And four, is there competition? Is there free competition? Meaning, are there elections? Now, you know that since the 1990s, we have had 20-something elections. And we see this happening. So there is democracy in Cameroon, and the democracy has become...
Is the competition really free?
No, it is free because, hey, let's say in parliament, you have about 7 or 8 political parties. Each of them have elected their representatives in parliament or in the Senate freely. I'm of the CPDM. I have no control over whoever they elected. The same goes for whoever belongs to whatever political party. I have no control over that. Nobody has control. They are free. They make their choices. And the day they go to the vote, to the ballot box, there's no policeman there. There is no gendarme.
In 40 years, Your Excellency, in 40 years, Paul Biya, the architect, what has he done concretely for him to merit the description, the architect?
Thank you. In 40 years, this is what he has done. He has done to merit the title of architect, which he is. One, he has instituted freedoms. Who denies? Are we free or not? Let everyone answer, including those who criticize. The answer is a positive yes, there's freedom. Two, is the society open for everybody to be what they want to be, go where they want to go, live where they want to live? Is the society open or not? The answer is positive yes, there is. Are people living in fear now as they used to do in the past? The answer is they're not living in fear anymore. These are achievements. Let's go further. In terms of democratization, are people making free choices or not? Of course they are. That is why they're electing senators, councillors, parliamentarians. They're electing them. President, they're electing. Nobody disturbs them. Let's go into infrastructure. Look at the number of hospitals in the health sector. Reference hospitals, general hospitals, regional hospitals, district hospitals. Take the educational sector. Universities. We have over 11 state universities now and hundreds of university institutes. Something you never saw 40 years ago. Not to talk of high school. There's almost a high school in every subdivision.
That are created? Universities.
Universities, there are about 11 state universities and hundreds of private university institutes. You never even dreamed of that 40 years ago. That shows you the freedom and the liberties and the enterprise, the willingness to move forward. So, education-wise, we can stand out and boast that we're a country that has gone far. These are achievements. Take infrastructure in terms of communication. See, we are on the internet. Cameroon is on the digital scene. You know, the internet is alive and well as a reality in Cameroon. In other words, ICT has become a reality in Cameroon. Not many countries are as high as Cameroon in terms of digitalization or what you call ICT. This is communications now. Look at how many, I mean, you are in that world, how many media organs we've got. Television, radio, newspapers, electronic media. Incredible in 40 years. There's an exponential growth in this area of communication. Take the area of physical infrastructure. Can you count, imagine, how many ports we have got now? How many dams we've got now? This is incredible. In 40 years, this is what is going on. I mean, you can count Mvele, you can count Lompanga, you can count others. And others are still coming up. So there is growth. There is, sure, I'm not saying that we haven't got challenges, we haven't got problems. We can discuss that if you ask the question.
Of course.
But we have progressed enormously, and in 40 years, the architect can say that he has put a new Cameroon in place. He has transformed Cameroon through his transformation vision of that he called the New Deal, and that in spite of the problems, and problems that are there, I mean, I'm not here to make as if...
we shall be coming to problems.
No problem.
Yeah,
but
we shall be coming to
but
problems.
I always say, there are people who look at the problems and forget or ignore all the achievements.
Yeah.
We have done a lot of achievements, and these achievements are enormous. Take a typical example that I give. The Cameroonian woman, who is actually the majority of the population of Cameroon, is more liberated in 40 years in Cameroon than she has ever been. The Cameroonian woman is so free, so liberated today that the Cameroonian woman can compete with just about anybody in Cameroon and in the world. We should be proud of that as a country. There was the late Kofi Annan who used to say that any society that leaves behind its women in its development drive is bound to fail. But Cameroon's progress has come along with the Cameroonian woman, liberated fully.
Let's come back to 1990 with the return of multi-party politics.
Yes.
I would like us to come back to it. Was it not the wind of change that actually forced the President of the Republic to accept the return of multi-party politics?
No, as you know, the wind of change came about towards the end of the 1980s, you know, with the end of the Cold War in '89 and the fall of the then Soviet Union, and with the discourse that took place in La Baule in France. This was in the late '80s. But we shouldn't forget, President Biya, we are celebrating 40 years of a new Cameroon, the New Deal Cameroon. That was in 1982, several years before what you call the wind of change. You know, the wind of change came from the east or from the north, but President Biya was already on his agenda. He had been on his agenda for more than 5-6 years before the wind of change. The wind of change met him. There was already a wind of change in Cameroon before the wind of change that we all talk about that came from the east or that came from the north. In other words, the wind of change is not what caused the transformation of the Cameroonian society. President Biya, in his political philosophy, which he has put together in a book that's called Communal Liberalism, as you know,
of course,
was able to design, conceive a political vision for a new kind of Cameroon and to put it in place and launch it when he took power. He acceded to the Supreme Magistracy in 1982. Sure, he put in place, because for you to implement a vision, you need to put in place policy makers, a government in place, and other structures. It has taken time for it to be put in place, but he believes in it, and he was committed to it, and he has been able to be the manager. Proof of it is that, and someone asked me the question the other day, what explains that in 40 years he's still in power? And the answer I've always given to that is that it is because the Cameroonian people are people of faith. They recognize that he is the architect of the new Cameroon, and in their faith in him, they want to still give him the benefit of the doubt, and they believe that there is no better alternative vision to that of the New Deal, and so they put him there, and they believe in him. And that secondly, the New Deal as a political vision, a political program of socio-political and economic governance is so attractive, is full of virtues and values, so much so that there is not yet a better alternative to it. Even those who make noise and criticize, and
They have any reason to do so, to make noise and
no, they
criticize?
have every reason because they are free, first of all. So they are free to express themselves and criticize and so forth. But in criticizing, or when you criticize, you should outline your own alternative vision and see if that alternative vision or political program is more attractive than the one that has been offered in the last 40 years.
40
For the
years.
most part, you don't have.
40 years is 4 decades. It's a long time.
Yes.
Tell us, can we say all things has not been a bed of roses? We have seen some challenges.
Indeed.
I want you to cite some of these challenges.
Yes, there have been some challenges that we all agree because we are all. First of all, there is no human endeavor which is not subject to some lapses, some weaknesses, or some errors. That's normal. We are all human beings. We must be honest. We must be humble. And we must be of good faith. We are just human beings. And so there might be lapses here and there and shortcomings here and there. That's normal. But again, because we believe in the New Deal, because we believe in the values of the New Deal, because we believe in the person, the architect, President Biya, we should be able to commit ourselves to make it work. And the lapses, if you want to say, what have been the challenges? One, the first challenge of the New Deal is that some people still have not made the effort to understand it and to master it. It's as if they don't want to believe in it, or they don't want to
believe
understand
in what?
it.
In the New Cameroon?
In the New Cameroon, and what it stands for in the New Deal. So you have these forces that have chosen not to understand, and they still want a mentality like was obtained in the past of the old, shall we say, the old deal, or of the old Cameroon. Two, the second challenge is that some people are still of the mentality that they should resist. In other words, they pretend that they believe in the New Deal, but actually they are resisting the New Deal from being implemented fully. And the third challenge is that there are some people actually who are fighting to destroy the New Deal and to destroy the New Cameroon because they prefer the old Cameroon. But we all know that the old Cameroon was, as they call it in those days when we used to read about the history of France, it was the Ancien Regime. The Ancien Regime in Cameroon was an Ancien Regime of people were afraid, people were not free, the society was closed up, the society was highly centralized. But today, the new Cameroon of the New Deal is the opposite of the Ancien Regime. It is open, it is liberal, people are morally conscious, everybody wants morality, everybody wants rigor and transparency. It is good, I myself too am for that. Everybody wants to be free to do what they want. That's liberalization. Everybody wants to take part in election. Everybody wants to be a candidate. Everybody wants to be elected to something. That's very good. And guess what? Everybody wants to be seen as being modern. In other words, everybody wants to be more rational. Everybody wants to be more reasonable. Everybody wants to be more logical. And I think that's good. That is the Cameroon we want. And I keep telling people that in spite of these challenges, which are normal, we're not going to throw away these Cameroonians who are making it difficult for the New Deal to succeed. What we should say is that there is no better alternative. The New Deal is the best guarantee for a Cameroon of the future, a Cameroon of a great destiny.
The New Deal, the best guarantee. I would like us to talk about our motto, which is peace, work, and fatherland.
Yes.
Peace, work, and fatherland. In 1982, when he came to power, 40 years later, can we say there is peace, there is work, and there is fatherland?
Yes, you see, the concept you're using, peace, work, fatherland, we all know what that means, or what they mean. But actually, we have to be realistic, we have to be honest. These are all relative concepts. You have to relativize every concept that you do. Peace, work, fatherland. Is there peace or not? Everyone knows that among the 54 countries in Africa, Cameroon is one of those countries that many people know. A country where people love peace, they want peace, they have lived in peace for a long time. But we've noticed that in the last 5 or 6 years, we know that in 2 out of our 10 regions of the Northwest and Southwest, peace has been disturbed because of the crisis that is going on there. But you know something? when you go now to the northwest and southwest, as I was in the southwest a few days ago, people still want peace, and people want to live in peace, and people are working hard to live in peace.
When you say they are working hard,
they are really working hard. In other words, you go there, when you look at the population in their faces, when you discuss with the population, and when you see when they live, they still keep a smile. They still have words of warmth, of brotherhood, and of love. And that's good, of concord. You don't find, I know that some people are engaged in hate speech, and some people want to be violent and want violence to take place and chaos. But the majority of the population, if you go to the northwest and southwest, where we have these threats to peace and so forth, you find that the majority of the population still wants wants peace, believes in peace, and wants for us all to work for peace. So the fact that we have two regions where peace is disturbed does not make Cameroon a land of conflict or a land of war, because you and I are here now. If there were no peace, you and I would not be talking like this, smiling. It shows that peace is a reality in Cameroon, and that Cameroon is a land of peace. That's why you and I are talking here in all peace. And we understand we are with the people of the northwest and southwest. And we hope that everyone, especially those who are in the bushes, who are causing the violence and creating instability and violence, will come to understand that peace is golden, and that they rather drop their arms, come back to the fold, and let us talk peace and live like brothers and sisters.
You as
like we're living in Yaoundé.
You as a son from the southwest, you
Yes.
as a son of Cameroon, what is happening with the Anglophone regions or in Anglophone regions certainly is very much regrettable.
It is regrettable because what is happening in the northern and southwest, the two Anglophone regions, is that the problems we've got, the problems of violence, of destruction, of kidnapping, of killings, and so forth, are caused by we ourselves, and that's what aches me most. It is you and it is us from the northwest and southwest who have decided, I consider it erroneously, wrongly, to engage in this sort of nonsense or irrational behavior of killing, destroying, preventing children from going to school, and kidnapping people. Sure, there are problems, but there are problems everywhere. How do men, citizens, solve a problem when they face problems? They solve problems by going back to what God gave them, their hearts and their brains. Use your brains and your heart when you have problems. And when you use your brains and heart, if we had used our brains and hearts, if the young people in the bushes today had used their brains and their hearts, they would not have taken up arms. They would not have been killing and kidnapping people. They would not have disturbed children from going to school. The people of the young boys. Have they been
pushed to do so?
Well, you could say they have been pushed, or there's always a cause. Somebody will always give you a cause, but no matter what cause there is, nothing on earth should justify, or nothing on earth justifies you
picking up arms
to kill your brother, your friend, your fellow man, your fellow citizen, and to violate the law. Once you do that, you've lost your brains. Once you do that, you've lost your heart. And once you do that, you've lost even your humanity, because you are practicing inhumanity against your fellow man. And I hope that on the occasion of the 40th anniversary of the New Deal, which is a political vision put in place by President Biya, a political vision of more rationality, more reason, more logic, more liberalism, more freedom, more humanism, that will understand that on this occasion, those young people who have taken up arms and killing our brothers and sisters, our mothers and children, as they did in Ekonde Tite and in Kumba, or in other places, that they will stop this, because the New Deal is still 40 years after it was launched. It's still relevant, because the New Deal is a political vision of values. The New Deal is a political vision of virtues. The New Deal is a political vision of humanism. Let there be humanism, and where there is love, where there is humanism, where there is consideration, there is peace. You talked about work. Work. How can people, how can people expect for there to be work when the opportunities of work are being blocked by somebody who has decided to take up the gun? It doesn't work this way. You want work is done by reasonable people. Work is produced by a rational process. And you go to school, it is rational. You create a company, it is rational. And it is by going to school that you develop skills. And when you create a company, you create opportunities and professions. But if you take up guns, you block all that.
Okay,
if you kill people, you block that. If you kidnap people, you block that.
Prof, we still have 3 minutes. We shall conclude in 3 minutes' time. It was a special edition to discuss about the 40th anniversary of President Biya's accession to power. But before we go, I would like you to answer this question. You as a son of Cameroon, 40 years after, are you a happy man?
Oh yes, first of all, I was a disciple of, I am a disciple of the New Deal because I was one of those young persons. I was only 20, I think 27 or 28 years old as a doctoral student when the New Deal was launched by President Biya in Cameroon. And I was so attracted to it that 5 years after I finished my PhD, I took my bags and came back to Cameroon. And you asked the question, am I a happy man? Of course, 40 years later, I'm happy in Cameroon because when I look at my country, I look at you, I look at everybody, what I see, because philosophically, I'm an optimist. I'm an Afro-optimist, as we call in philosophical terms. And what I see, what I've lived, what I've experienced is that in spite of the problems and the difficulties we've got, there is promise, there is a future, and there is virtue, there is value.
There is hope.
There is humanism, there is hope. And therefore, we should not allow ourselves to be crushed or to be defeated by the problems that we've got, which are problems which can be solved by our brains, by our goodwill, by our optimism, by our positiveness. But we shouldn't allow ourselves to be defeatist. We shouldn't allow ourselves to be negative. And that's why I'm telling you that the New Deal is as relevant today, 40 years later, as it was 40 years ago, because when you look at the contents of the New Deal, the elements, they are still attractive today.
So
the question, how do we do it? We need Cameroonians who believe in Cameroon, who love Cameroon. We believe in Cameroonians who have faith in Cameroon and in what Cameroon can offer. We believe in Cameroonians who show good faith. They are honest, they are humble, and they believe in Cameroon. And we need Cameroonians who are engaging and engaged to participate.
Cameroon is strong, tall, and is standing tall.
It is.
Certainly a word to the President of the Republic, who is watching us at this particular moment, certainly as he is celebrating the 40th anniversary of his accession to power.
Yes, my word I will say to my president is that he offered me the opportunity to serve Cameroon, and I continue to serve Cameroon. I believe in Cameroon, and for his vision and for his the virtues of character and moderation and his tolerance and so forth, we pray to the good Lord to continue to give him good health and to continue to enable and guide him to be able to lead Cameroon. And on this occasion, the most I can say is to wish him well and to say, long live the New Deal, long live His Excellency President Paul Biya, and long live a Cameroon of the New Deal.
The Cameroon of the New Deal, is true that it will be on the 6th of November, on Sunday, the 6th of November, that President Paul Biya will actually clock 40 at the helm of the state. We, being at a Republican television, we at Camdis Television, we shall actually accompany the President of the Republic till that day, that 6th of November, with special programs like this one. Once again, we say thank you, Prof, for coming. Thank you for accepting our invitation, Prof.
It's a pleasure always, a pleasure always. I'm a Republican, and I never fail to be part of the Republican environment, because I know that as a republic, there is diversity. As a republic, there is freedom. As a republic, we are the masters of our own destiny. And as a republic, we owe it to each other to work together to move the republic forward. And nobody should be left behind. All of us together, in spite of our diversities, in spite of our differences, in spite of whatever problems, we owe it to each other to work together to move the republic forward.
To work together to move the republic forward.
Yeah.
We shall be having such programs till the 6th of November on